I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable
you are
to
no
watch somebody on stage search for
that's so amazing.
You're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you were mocking his stutter. Yeah, I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline.
And it's very concerning to a lot of people that this could be the leader of the free world.
Okay.
That is all I'm saying. I genuinely feel sorry for Joe Biden.
I appreciate it. I'm sure it was from a place of concern. We all believe that. Laura Trump, thank you so much.
I was just thinking the other day that it's entirely possible that there's a large amount of Democrats who simply were not aware of the White House's cover-up of Joe Biden's mental and physical decline. So to them, of course, Jake Tapper's book would be a complete mind-blowing revelation. But to the rest of us, it's really nothing new. But we all know exactly why Jake Tapper wrote this book, and that, of course, was to save his own failing credibility and possibly that of CNN's as well. So what we're going to see today, of course, is Megyn Kelly actually calling out his flip-flopping on this exact same topic. But before we begin, don't forget to like and comment on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
But you covered the Biden presidency aggressively throughout the 4 years, and you didn't cover mental acuity hardly at all. I mean, time and time again, when issues came up, you seemed to be running cover for the president.
I don't think
interested.
That's true.
Well, I mean, we'll start with the Laura Trump issue.
After we did the research for this book, and I realized how bad his acuity issues were, I called Laura Trump and I said, you were right.
She was totally right. That's the thing, because when I watched that clip, and I'm giving voice to what a lot of people watching the show are feeling, Jake, I feel angry because she was right. And not only did you not allow her to make her comments, but you seemed to try to humiliate her. You had a hostility toward the position, but she was totally right. And then you lectured her on how she was in no position to diagnose cognitive decline, which you guys do at length, including on page 4 of your book. You describe at length his cognitive decline, which is all she tried to do with you. But you had such a visceral reaction to her. And my feeling is that's because you didn't want to hear it.
No, I'm happy to talk about this. I didn't come here thinking that you weren't going to ask me about this. So I'm happy to talk to you about it.
No, I know.
The first time I saw the coverage of Laura Trump's comments, which were interpreted as her mocking Joe Biden's stutter, was in January 2020. I read it in conservative media. I read it in the Daily Mail. And that's where I saw that her comments were being interpreted that way. Joe Biden has been saying stupid things for decades. Okay.
I get what you're saying, but this minimizes it too, because it was more than saying stupid things. But I'm telling you, like over here in my ecosphere, we were covering all of these. It wasn't just falling down. It was getting lost. It was some of the stuff you report in your book. We knew, and we were reporting on, like the multi-jump cuts in the videos of him, where it was obvious he couldn't get through a 1-minute take. So they had to use those. It was clear to us that he was using teleprompter, and there was some reporting on that at the time, all of which the White House was denying. Now, with the current White House, I have some connections. With the Joe Biden White House, I had none. But you did. You did. And so while you've been in Washington 30 years, Jake, you and CNN have White House connections, but there was no effort, none, to get to the bottom of this. And now for you guys to write this book like there was a cover up, it's like there was a cover up and there was an attempted cover up. It could only ever work if you allowed it, if the press allowed it. Some of us tried not to, and some of us were complicit.
First of all, the Biden White House did not like me. Okay, I do not have great connections with the Biden White House.
Well, clearly, you have a lot of sources. You say you talked to over 200 sources for this book. So you have some election. You could have called and worked.
No, that's the point, is that they were not being honest. That's the point.
How did the Wall Street Journal get it in June of 2024? And Jake Tapper and CNN couldn't find sources for this story then before he dropped out?
Annie Linsky and Siobhan Hughes did an amazing job in their reporting, and they should be heralded, and I heralded them. I had them on my show right after the debate to talk about their great reporting. But Annie Linsky,
the debate, but you did not put them on when they published that story, which was before the debate. You put on a Democrat, and you allowed the Democrat to rip on the report as a Rupert Murdoch sponsored hit piece.
No.
It's just
Megyn,
that's Megyn, what happened.
If we're going to do this, let's just stick to the facts here, okay? When there is a damaging
Jake,
report...
That's what I've been doing all along.
I'm talking about what you just said.
Didn't miss the biggest story of the century when it comes to presidential politics, and one of us did.
Okay. So there is a difference, okay, between the clips of Joe Biden falling on a stage at the Air Force Academy graduation. There is a difference between the clip of Joe Biden embarrassingly forgetting that a Republican member of Congress who he's talking about has died. Those are embarrassing. Those are important. But there is a difference between that and the investigative journalism that Alex and I were able to do and only able to do after the election.
You are not the right messenger to bring the story about the cover-up because you helped. You allowed it, and you likely did that out of a desire to help Joe Biden and hurt Donald Trump. You didn't want to do anything that might improve Trump's chances.
I do not think that that is accurate. I do not think that that is true at all. The idea that Siobhan and Annie do their piece and we have on the co-chair of the Biden campaign is not me trying to cover for the Biden campaign. That is me putting the questions of the reporting that were made to him and saying things like, so you really haven't seen any moment, or you would acknowledge that, wouldn't you acknowledge that he's lost a step, he's 81, et cetera, et cetera.
But those of us on this side of the aisle had been reporting in depth on his multiple problems and the obvious lies we were being told for years, for years. You really want the audience to believe you were fooled?
What do you mean I was fooled? I'm not saying I was fooled. I'm saying we all saw these moments before the camera. But so the people at the White House, when I would call, when others would call, when Alex would call, would lie. He's fine. He's fine. You'd call Democrats and say, what are you seeing behind the scenes here? Because this is concerning. He's fine. He's fine. This is just a moment. He's 79. He's 80. He has moments like that, but he's fine. His decision making's fine. They're still saying that.
But let me just ask you, because when we got to leading up to the debate, which you anchored, that June 27th debate, 2024, there was a ton of news leading into that debate in that month. And we look back at your coverage and found that you ignored it. Not only did you ignore the Jackie Walorski moment when you had him 13 days later, but you ignored the freeze up that he had at the Juneteenth celebration. You ignored what happened at the G7 when he wandered off and Giorgia Meloni, Prime Minister of Italy, had to go find him. You ignored the freeze up at the George Clooney LA fundraiser. You didn't cover it. You only covered it after the debate, after George Clooney wrote his op-ed. Jake, nobody made you do that. There was your network at every turn was telling us those were, quote, cheap fakes. And you were not combating that narrative. CNN was actively misleading us on what our very eyes were showing us. That's the truth. That's the record.
Oh my goodness, Megyn Kelly does not let up, right? So Jake Tapper's coming out and he's trying to be very contrite, trying to say, you know what? I wish I'd known then what I know now, right? We all knew that was the point that Megyn Kelly is making over and over and over again. Everybody was out there talking about it because it was easy to see. But of course, Jake Tapper has to say, oh, there's a difference between noticing these things and investigative journalism, all right? True, granted, but the problem is you refused to notice. You refused to acknowledge that, yeah, this guy is losing his step mentally and physically. I mean, after all, he's out there going up on stage and freezing and shaking the hands of ghosts. All right? The man was clearly in decline and you refused to report on it. And of course, the excuse he's making is that every single time I tried to contact the White House, to contact Joe Biden's representatives, what did they say? Oh, he's fine, right? He's just getting a little older, right? Nothing's wrong with him, etc. And you took their word for it? All right. Are you on the record saying that, yeah, Joe Biden is diminished? Joe Biden is acting strangely. He seems to be losing his memory. He's falling down a lot. Did you actually say any of that? No, you brushed it all under the rug because obviously you're in the tank. You wanted Joe Biden to win the presidency. You wanted 4 more years of wide open borders and high inflation and high crime, etc. Right? That's what you wanted. And that's why you refused to report on it. And that infamous interview with Laura Trump, where you put on that mocking tone saying, oh, I bet you have Joe Biden's best interests at heart, right? You refused to recognize what was actually happening, and you belittled people who were actually doing that reporting, all right? And as Megyn Kelly rightly points out, the Wall Street Journal piece, right? You didn't want to talk about it or acknowledge it until after the fact, until after George Clooney did his op-ed, until after the horrible debate, and then it was okay all of a sudden for everyone to pile on Joe Biden and say, yeah, there's definitely a problem here. When the waters were safe, then you jumped in. As soon as it became clear that Joe Biden had no chance of winning, that is when, of course, the Democrats started to circle in the waters to take him down. And that's when, of course, Jake Tapper decided, you know what, maybe I will start doing a little bit of investigative journalism in the form of a book after the election, after it doesn't really matter, and after the truth has been revealed to every single person out there. But of course, I give kudos and major props to Megyn Kelly for not taking any of his BS and constantly reminding him that, yeah, you refuse to report, you refuse to acknowledge, and you belittled others. So that's you, Jake Tapper. It's on the record, and now everyone sees what a hypocrite you are. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me. Do you like t-shirts? Of course you do. And now you can support the channel by buying an Angry Teacher t-shirt designed by me, Angry Teacher. So if you like America, if you like freedom, if you like liberty, then go ahead and click the link in the description where all designs, of course, are 100% mother approved. So enjoy yourself and find something you like today.